I can't take it anymore. My mind's about to go to war. I need someone to save me from myself, to hear me cry when I call out for help. I blame it on the voices that are in my head, wondering if they'll ever be put to bed. Feels like I am close to reaching my wit's end, holding out but I'm about to blow it up like a volcano. Another day to lose control. There's a fire in my bones. My sight gets blurry, pushing back the tears. Should take a leap of faith and face my fear. I blame it on the voices that are in my head, wondering if they'll ever be put to bed. Feels like I am close to reaching my wit's end, holding out but I'm about to blow it up like a volcano.
Quiet's driving me insane. Silence rattles in my brain. Yeah, I gotta get away. Always waiting for the fall, so I built my towers tall, wandering through these empty halls. Break the cycle now, walls are coming down. Gotta save me from myself. This emptiness, it hurts like hell. My good intentions let me down. I keep getting in my way. My stubborn pride will dig my grave. Leave it behind with every step I take. Yeah, cycle down, walls are coming down. Look just wanna feel love.
There we go. I'm learning. I'm also doing something different with the lighting to see if it is better. So I actually want to look at the one on the bottom because we were mutuals with them when we had TikTok. And I heard that they find the video very amusing, so I'm interested to see what it says.
What are you doing in my house? What are you doing in my house? I want waffle fries.
I just found it a little ironic that the guy hiding behind multiple obviously fake accounts is concerned about whether or not I'm faking the disorder that I'm officially diagnosed with. Make it make sense, y'all. Well, guys, this is it. Apparently I'm racist and faking according to the guy who was in my life calling my friend the N-slur. So, I guess I'm racist and faking everyone. Oh well.
They say only 1 in 100 people actually have dissociative identity disorder.
That is a lot of people. That is a lot of people. 1 in 100 is a lot of people. That is still millions of people.
It's definitely one of the rarer mental health disorders globally, but spend just 30 minutes scrolling through TikTok and you'd swear the numbers have magically doubled.
So the algorithm on TikTok is similar to the algorithm on YouTube. If you interact with DID content on TikTok, you are going to be shown more DID content on TikTok. See how that works?
This is DVI DID, a bit of a tongue
DVI DID. Divided. They are known as the divided system. It is a play on words. Divided.
twister. But just another TikToker stepping into the spotlight with claims of having 40 alters, and honestly sharing some pretty stupid takes on DID. I mean, right off the bat, there are so many things about this person and his statements that just don't align with what the disorder really is. Like, would you really need therapy to connect with or remember things about your other alters?
No, you don't need therapy for that. You should be in therapy. It will help immensely. But you don't need therapy to communicate with your alters. That is not a requirement for improving communication. It does help improve communication at a much more rapid pace. Honestly, it is much safer to be in therapy, to be working through these things, but it is not a requirement to have a therapist to initiate communication between alters. It can help, but you don't absolutely need it.
As this guy believes, TikTok filters could be used therapeutically. Well, why the hell are you wasting your money then?
Do they claim that TikTok filters can be used as therapy?
Just save it and treat your serious disorder with this platform instead. Right. Also, if you consult any professional, they will tell you the same thing, that DID is definitely uncommon, and that
It is not as uncommon as people like to believe it is, because unfortunately, things like child abuse are not uncommon.
there's really no debate about it. But according to DVI-DID, the rarity of this disorder is just a misconception. These kinds of stupid
Can you show where they say that? There are no sources, first of all, in the description, as always, unfortunately. I forgot to say this at the beginning. Do not go and harass anyone in these videos, whether they be the people in the videos themselves or the people creating the videos. Do not harass them, do not attack them, do not insult them. It is dangerous that they are doing videos like this, but they still do not deserve to be harassed.
sense make you think about what's going on in the minds of some teenagers on the internet. We're watching a generation at this point fall into this brain rot, and if there's one thing that really doesn't add up, it's that mental health disorders aren't contagious, but wow, pretending to have them definitely is a social phenomenon that feels like some kind of internet pandemic at this stage. It really seems as if it's taken TikTok by storm, with no signs of it ever slowing down anytime soon. To break it down, every health community includes a mixture of people. Some aren't sure if they have the condition, some are accurately diagnosed or on their own. There are also some curious ones who want to learn more, and those who are misdiagnosed, and of course, some just flat out lie about having it. So where does Divian DID fit into all of this?
Do not make assumptions about people's mental health. Just don't. You are not their therapist, doctor. You are not the one treating them. You don't have any qualifications to be doing so. Just do not. Do not speculate.
Well, that's what we'll be going over in today's video.
So I also support self-diagnosis. We were self-diagnosed for a number of years before.
I see a name on here. Imitating DID is specifically the person who... When was I was reacting to this one, I believe. I could be very wrong about that. They were the ones to act out Dissociated's trauma, the trauma that Dissociated had shared. Imitating DID was the one to do that. They got banned very quickly from Divided's page, from what I know.
For our professional diagnosis.
So, Divian DID is a 24-year-old TikToker, and his audience is primarily made up of teenagers. Many of...
How do you know that? Where are the analytics stating that their audience is mostly teenagers? Because from this, it does not seem like you have the analytics to show. You are just making assumptions.
Of whom are likely feeling confused about their own identities. What really gets me though is that he preaches that self-diagnosing is a good thing and that he fully supports it. Now, don't get
When did they say that self-diagnosis is a good thing? They just said that they support self-diagnosis. We support self-diagnosis. We are professionally diagnosed twice with DID. Once by a trauma specialist, and recently again by our DID specialist. All they said was that they support self-diagnosis. We have sources in our Google document about self-diagnosis, about why getting a professional diagnosis is not always an option. And as always, that Google document will be linked in the pinned comment when this stream goes up on YouTube.
get me wrong, self-exploration can be valuable, but there's a fine line between trying to understand your symptoms and just jumping to conclusions based
Putting text and not expanding on it. So I'm very confused. People in the comments seem very confused as well and misinformed. One of the symptoms and the diagnostic criteria for DID is amnesia. Memories will often get shifted around. Different alters will have different memories. So messing up with ages and timelines is completely normal for DID. Having a cohesive timeline and I'm only basing this off of a video that Multiplicity and me made. They made a video about some signs of factitious DID. Fictive. I'm getting my words mixed up. It's basically signs of someone faking DID, whether on purpose or accidentally or without knowing. And one of the things that they said in that video was having a cohesive timeline can be a red flag to look out for professionals who are qualified. That is not a green flag for you to go ahead and debate whether people have DID based on whether or not they have a cohesive timeline. So having a very fragmented and confusing timeline of events, especially with ages and dates, is completely normal for people with DID.
just jumping to conclusions.
So Simeon, let me put it this way. Some alters in DID will know that they have DID and are part of a system for much longer than the host or other alters in the system. Most of us in our system did not know that we had DID until 2021, early 2021. But some of our alters, especially our gatekeepers, did know. It's how DID works. That doesn't mean that all alters who are aware of them having DID will know exactly what's going on or what it means. It just means that that is how that system and those alters work.
Conclusions based on TikTok's 5 signs trend or a simple Google search. It's easy to think that your symptoms point to DID, but what if they're really pointing to something else like BPD, bipolar disorder, or even the fact that you might just be a normal teenager? Believe me, we all go through things like this at
Yes, teenagers go through a lot of things, but that is different than DID, and BPD and DID are different from each other. It's normal for teenagers to have things like mood swings. It is not normal for a teenager to have a mood swing, be fine, be completely fine after, and have no memory of that mood swing.
that age. The number of people thrusting their first suspicion based on a 15-second video they saw is honestly absolutely concerning.
I agree. Which is why we have always said, do not diagnose yourself off of a 15-second TikTok. Self-diagnosis is not looking at a few TikToks and relating to them and assuming that you have it. Self-diagnosis takes months to years of research. It's not a quick process. And also, looking at a 15-second TikTok does not make you an expert on whether someone does or does not have DID.
Yeah, we knew we had DID before we were diagnosed. We knew when we were 7.
Just to make things clear, Divian DID intentionally said he figured out that he has this disorder at the age of 7 because he supposedly saw symptoms from his father's phone. Yep, just 7 years old. Look, I'm just trying to be genuine.
Do you have a clip of them saying that is how they found out? They just say that they knew when they were 7. That doesn't mean that all of the elders in the system knew.
Realistic here. At that age, understanding DID is like trying to explain quantum physics to a toddler. Here, sweetie, come and sit down while I explain to you what multiple identities is while you colour in your Spider-Man comic book. Yeah.
This actually brings up a good point. Because when we first started seeing our DID specialist, one of the first things that she gave us to borrow was a book. Let me actually see if I can quick look it up. Because I think it is this one. If it will load. Yes. This one. Let me change tabs. So this is the book that she gave us. It's called All the Colors of Me, my first book about dissociation. All the Colors of Me is one of the first books worldwide that embraces the goal of helping children and adolescents understand their dissociative experiences. All the Colors of Me provides mental health professionals with a great tool to educate and explain dissociation to children and adolescents. All the Colors of Me takes complex concepts from the latest theories that address dissociation and puts them into clear and concrete terms that are easy to understand for people of all ages. This was the book that she let us borrow. And our littles were very, very interested in it. And that is the book that our DID specialist used to explain dissociation and DID to other patients that she has treated. She used to work in I think she called it some sort of locked facility, specifically with children. And out of the 8 children there, half of them had DID. She noticed the symptoms in them. There were switches and different alters. This is the book that she used to help explain to them what was going on. So, it's not completely impossible for children to be diagnosed with DID or for children to not show symptoms. It has happened and it will continue to happen.
Yeah, it doesn't even sound right out loud. It's honestly tough to grasp the complexity of this disorder without first reading a children's book, and I mean a thick one. I would assume he was in first or...
All the Colors of Me is not a long book at all. I think at most it was... I want to say at most it was 30 pages with very little text and mostly illustrations. It was a very thin book. It is a very thin book.
Of second grade, probably still trying to figure out if the sky is blue or if he's just imagining things. So to say he even slightly had a grasp on this disorder, when, I mean, you guys have seen it at this point, the amount of videos I've made, and even I don't fully understand it, or...
So you've just said that you don't fully understand it, but you've been making all of these videos about it? That does not add up. You should not be making all of these videos trying to undiagnose people when you don't fully grasp the disorder, when you haven't treated them, when you are not a qualified professional yourself. This is adding to the stigma of DID. This is already a highly stigmatized disorder. Things like this make it worse. Things like this do not help the community, it harms it. Because you are spreading misinformation, you are calling individuals out. This is harmful. Things like this, places like FDC, are harmful. You can talk about faking in general because I do believe that is an extremely important topic to be covering. but do not call out individuals. You are not qualified. You don't know them at all. All you've seen are some 15-second TikToks, maybe a live stream here and there. You are only being shown what they decide to show and post. That is the same with us. Even though these are live streams exported directly from Twitch onto YouTube, no editing, you will only see what we show you. We can end the stream at any point. If we start having a flashback, we can end the stream right there. We have switched on streams before. We have dissociated very heavily on stream before. We have gotten upset. We've gotten triggered. I don't know if we've had a flashback on stream. We might have, I don't know. But this disorder isn't something where the symptoms go away as soon as the camera turns off. It's a very dark disorder. It can be very isolating. Some parts of it are completely terrifying, and I will not lie about that. But media has been fear-mongering about the disorder, saying things like, especially in movies like Split, where there's an alter who will murder you. Things like that are harmful. And yes, some systems do have more violent alters, but for the most part, there's not going to be an alter in a system who's just going to attack you. DID is a survival mechanism. It develops because of prolonged severe childhood trauma before the ages of around 7 to 9. It's not fun. It can be very, very frustrating at times, especially with the dissociation, because we'll be trying to do something. Like, for instance, I will be trying to stream and I will just start dissociating and I can't ground. And it is very upsetting because I just want to be able to do things like any other person without DID. I don't even remember what I was talking about that started that tangent.
Completely get it myself.
We had therapy for a while at 16, and then, for a couple of months at 16 we did therapy, and then we started again when we were 20. Yes, I am.
Oh, and he also shared during his live stream that he got diagnosed at the age of 16.
You can be diagnosed with DID at any age. It's not a disorder where you turn a certain age and symptoms start appearing. It's a disorder that develops in childhood. You can be diagnosed at any age.
Meaning he spent nearly a decade in this self-diagnosis situation. I mean, are you kidding me? He says he remembers his childhood perfectly, but it's hard to take that at face value.
Do you have a clip of him saying that they remember their childhood perfectly. Also, I don't remember how old they are. Somewhere in their 20s, 24 maybe. So if they were diagnosed at 16, that is almost a decade of them being diagnosed. All the therapy, I don't know if they've had DID specialists, but all of that. Working on communication, working on integration, not necessarily fusion. That improves communication. That can lead to more memory sharing. That can lead to having more of a solid grasp on what happened. Hello. How are you doing? Speed this up a little bit. We are watching. This video is called Get Diagnosed by TikTok's Worst Faker by Ablaze. I think I've said that name correctly, but I am not entirely sure. But in essence, it's more videos about people who are supposedly faking DID. Yes, all of their videos on DID so far that I have seen has just been them fake claiming. Exactly. You don't know anything besides what they choose to show. And this person who's making these videos is not qualified in any way to be making these claims. They admitted a bit earlier in the video that they don't even have a complete grasp on DID, but that they've made a large number of videos about DID. I agree. We fully support self-diagnosis if it's done correctly, because it's not just watching a 15-second video on TikTok and then saying that you have it. It's months to years of research and internal work. Can I please speak without having my words taken from me?
When you've been self-diagnosing for so long. If a person with DID has just begun to recognize their alters, they're unlikely to be familiar with most or all of them. It's also improbable that they will have effective communication or co-consciousness among their alters, nor will they experience complete cooperation from their system.
And that is true, but they said that they were diagnosed at 16 and they are in their almost mid-20s now. So that is almost a decade of work
without the help of a professional. And when it comes to remembering trauma history, forget it. DID is basically designed to keep that stuff on lockdown, like a secret vault for all the messy bits of your past.
The most common one that I've heard is DID is just so rare. Not actually true, but that's the common misconception around it. And then there's always the talk of, well, DID stems from severe childhood trauma, and I'm like, yes, I'm vividly aware of that fact.
And what's really concerning is the effect this has on his audience. When someone treats self-diagnosing,
I'm confused as to why they showed that clip. So correct me if I'm wrong, and you do not have to answer this if you do not feel comfortable with it. Thank you for the follow. I'm assuming that you're a type of trauma holder for your system, which, of course, the person making this video does not seem to understand alter roles, because the trauma it doesn't just disappear. Interesting. I don't know if we've ever had a host that was also a trauma holder. But I know that we know other systems who do have that. I would like to speak. That is understandable, and I am so sorry that you had to experience that. It is not easy holding trauma at all.
Like it's a trendy accessory, it creates a harmful narrative that portrays mental health issues as glamorous or cool when they're anything but. Sure, anyone might have faced disturbing experiences or trauma, but that doesn't mean everyone will end up with fragmented memories as a result.
That's true, but you are speculating on their trauma and their level of trauma. Divided has shared some general vague themes of some of the trauma that they've experienced, which is the only reason that I am going to say it. They experienced, what was it, ritual abuse, I believe? That is completely valid. You are completely valid in all of that in your role. And that does make a lot of sense. That is also valid. We tend to confront a lot. We have a lot of passive influence. Co-consciousness and passive influence is more common usually than full switches, so that does make sense. But Divided said that they have shared that they have gone through ritual abuse, which is not something that I am going to go into detail about. I don't know the details of their specific trauma, and I'm not going to share specific examples of what that kind of abuse can include. That is also valid. It sounds like you have relatively good communication with your system, which is a good thing. I'm not going to share specific details about what ritual abuse can include. Do your own research on that if you really want to know. But make sure that you are in a good headspace to do that.
It just needs to be significant enough that the person can't cope with it. There are several factors at play, not just the trauma itself, and the trauma typically has to be ongoing and occur during early childhood, around the ages of 6 to 10. Yeah, there's no hard rule on the exact age, but you get the idea. And the child needs to be lacking other coping skills, meaning they're mainly dissociating. It's also important to note that if a child is neurodivergent, like having autism, ADHD, or a learning disability, they might actually have a lower threshold for distress.
That is also valid. We were fairly lucky in finding out that we had DID in early 2021 and then having a trauma specialist diagnose us later in 2021. So it was in the same year for us. So I can't imagine how frustrating it would be to not have a diagnosis for so long.
This means they can be more vulnerable to developing conditions like DID, as it unfortunately takes less for them to be traumatized. Now, when it comes to accepting this whole situation, some people take years to say, yep, I've got this, especially if a professional drops the diagnosis on them out of the blue. Others might stumble upon their system all on their own, although definitely not through self-diagnosing, and find it easier to accept once they talk with a therapist. But let's not sugarcoat it. Almost every system goes through some serious denial. It's not really linear.
All systems that we've spoken to have gone through intense denial. We still have intense denial. It never really goes away. And I also want to quickly say, children in general have a lower stress tolerance because they are children. They are more vulnerable. What is traumatizing to a child may not be traumatizing to an adult. But it was still traumatizing to that child. And it does count as trauma.
That's just a part of the disorder. No one is thrilled about being unwell, and apparently this guy thinks DID is common because he believes anyone can just slap that label on themselves. If that's the case, then I'm sure.
When do they say that, though? They have never said that from the clips that you've shown so far. They said that DID is more common than people like to believe, and that it is not rare. But they didn't say that it was a common disorder.
Sure, everyone could have DID. Why not? While it's honestly a relief to finally get a real diagnosis, it should come from a licensed therapist, and not from some hasty online Simpsons checker. I mean, after years of feeling lost and clueless about what's going on with you, it's only natural to be glad when people want to take you seriously, right? It's really, really hard not to doubt when some random person suddenly claims their DID journey without understanding what the disorder really is. They might even act like it's the best thing that's ever happened to them, which is something that we, strangely enough, see far too common online.
I want to quickly say some alters may have a more positive view of DID because not all alters hold trauma, not all alters hold awareness of anything. Some alters may not even front for however long. They may not front at all. So they may just know whatever is happening to them specifically. That's understandable. I know that when we may have been 14, 15, we had been inpatient, and one of the notes on our chart said that we had, it was either psychotic symptoms or psychotic episodes, which is incorrect. Obviously now we know what it is now. But it is very, very common for people with DID to be misdiagnosed with something like psychosis, or that is exactly how ours went too. That is exactly what happened to us.
Line with TikTokers these days. Meanwhile, others in the community are left feeling overshadowed, and let's be honest, the biggest motivator of all these fakers, a hefty dose of attention that they've been craving. Once again, Divi DID is spouting some downright ridiculous claims, saying he doesn't know when switching happens. I mean, yeah,
That's not uncommon. Sometimes we switch and don't even realize that we've switched for a while after because we are so dissociated. That is entirely valid. Sometimes we will switch and know immediately that we've switched. Sometimes it takes a while. We don't always know who we are either, because we are so dissociated. And especially when you are blurry or blendy with other alters, that can be very confusing. That is also valid. I know I have somewhat more control over if I want to switch in, but that's because of my role as primary protector. So I have more control than someone like a co-host in our system would.
sure, I'll give him that, because that is actually how DID works. But then he turns around and makes videos introducing his alters, so he...
Have you thought that maybe those videos are made when they know who they are? I like that name, Echo. That's a very cool name. And that makes sense. Gatekeepers tend to have some of the most control over those things. I agree, it's very apparent. That is very cool. We have a dragon altar as well, who is actually... I don't know how to describe it, but she has kind of like a familiar bond with one of our altars. Like I know in... like in some fantasy things, there's a person who has a familiar, and the familiar is some type of animal usually. That is valid. I think we only have one dragon, at least that I know of. I know that we have quite a few non-human altars. We have some of those too. We have a cricket altar, and we have a cat, and maybe someone else. I'm not sure. I don't think we have any anthro animals, but we do have animals.
He's obviously lying. I think it's important to note as well, as
He's obviously lying because sometimes they make TikToks introducing altars when they know who they are. That's interesting. I like all of those names.
I do see a lot of comments on these videos saying, how do I know this? How, you're not a professional? And absolutely, I'm not. But when stuff like this happens and it's just so blatantly obvious, do you really have to be a professional to call out?
Pretty much. You can have your opinions on whether someone is lying or not, but to make these huge call-out videos with misinformation with no sources in your description is very irresponsible. I could go on a tangent about introjects. People don't seem to understand introjects. I remember I reacted to a video of someone who is obsessed with Dissociated and obsessed with nitpicking all of their videos and finding specific parts that fit their narrative. That is valid. But in that video, that person said that Dissociated was stealing people's characters because they had an introject of one. Which is not how DID works. DID is not stealing characters. Mara was an introject of that character. That is not Dissociated stealing characters. I'm glad that he's sweet. Who's all up here? I know Tabitha and Unnamed are both up here, which isn't surprising considering they're in the middle of a fusion. Corey was closer, but they've stepped back, which, thank you, Corey.
That was someone's BS. I do talk to people that actually have the condition, and I always ask for their advice. I never just outright make these videos, so I get the opinions from them. And
You have never said that before. That's not in your description. You have no disclaimers. You have no sources. Please, 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 if you are going to make a video like this, which first of all, I don't think anyone should be making videos like this, but I can't stop it. Obviously, people make their own decisions. I do not control other people, so I can only give my personal opinions. If you're going to make a video like this, don't. Yes, but if people are going to, which they are going to anyway, please put sources, or at the very least a disclaimer. Also, that's fair about the Introjux and the other altar. We have thank you. I try. Can I send links? Will it work if I send a link in here? I'm wondering if it will actually work if I send a link in here. Will that work? What do you mean join Twitch today? I am in Streamlabs. This is my own stream. Let me send a message. I miss Twitch Studio. I really, really do. We had to switch over when we got the message that Twitch Studio was going to just not exist anymore. And we have had nothing but struggles with Streamlabs. It has been... It's been... That's it. It's just been. But we do have our source list on YouTube in our VODs, which I think... I don't know for sure. I think we have our YouTube linked on our profile. I think. Right? Do we? We have to, right? I think we do. Okay, we do. Thank you. But we do have in the VODs, specifically the ones where I'm reacting to these videos, there's a pinned comment in all of those, and it has a Google Doc linked in there, and it's our source list. And I just wish that people would use sources and link them so that I can go over them during stream. That would be great. I would like to see where they are getting their information from. That would be great.
And also licensed professionals and their opinions on some of the...
Okay, proceeds to switch again with no trigger and admits to no trigger. So, not all switches need a trigger. It depends on the system. Some systems can only switch with triggers. In other systems, like specifically ours, if an altar wants to front... Exactly, that is also true. And some switches can be from triggers. Can I please speak? I would like to speak. It's... yeah. Speaking is overrated. If I could type in the chat, I would, but I cannot because Streamlabs is being Streamlabs. In our system specifically, we have an inner world. Not all systems will have an inner world. Not all systems with an inner world will be able to access it. Not all altars will be able to, etc., etc. Depends on the system. For us, we have a front room. If an altar wants to front, they can just walk into the front room for the most part. We do have... I don't know what to call them. They just guard kind of the inner doorway of the front room in our system. Since when is autism rare? I've never heard anyone claim that autism is rare. I've just never... That is a new one for me, that one has me reeling a little bit. But for our system, if an altar wants to front, they can for the most part. Hello? What did it just do? That was weird. Okay, anyway. For the most part, if an altar wants to front in our system, they can just walk into the front room. And we have a couch in our inner world in the front room. You sit on the couch, you front. That's how our system works. Autism and ADHD are comorbid, though. Like, it's more common to have both autism and ADHD than it is to just have one or the other, from what we know.
These people. Like I said at the beginning, it's supposed to be so rare, but like everyone is seeing right now, you go on TikTok and it seems like everybody has this condition. Another argument on top of this as well is obviously, well, just leave them be, ignore them. But the thing is it really hurts the people that actually suffer with this.
You know what hurts people who suffer with DID more than people on TikTok just existing? Making videos like this. Making videos like this and spreading misinformation.
Because then they get stigmatized around online as a joke, and this whole disorder doesn't even exist, making their lives utterly miserable.
Videos like this just make that worse. I would like to know the answer to that too. But I do think that talking about faking in general without calling out individuals or large groups or whatever is an important topic that needs to be spoken about more. Because some people do fake DID knowingly, but you should never speculate on individuals' diagnoses. If you want to help spread information about DID being faked, do it in a general, vague sense. Do not go after individual people. Speak about faking in general. Do not use any individuals for that. Just speak about it in general. Exactly, I agree with that.
And that's why I find a lot of this so important to actually speak about. I feel like sometimes I'm the only one online calling this out, because it is ridiculous. And these people can't just go around doing this without being called out for it, in my opinion.
You have no qualifications to undiagnose people. You don't know what they have been through. You only know what they choose to share online. You don't have any sources. You don't have any disclaimers. And you are a channel with 500,000 subscribers. Most of your videos that I have seen, or at least a large portion of them, are about CID, which you have admitted to not having a full grasp on. You are spreading misinformation. You are fake claiming individuals. This is hurting more than it is helping. Exactly.
Opinion. But introducing your alters? Seriously? This whole switch on command bullshit is just driving me insane.
You have shown no evidence that divided switches on command, first of all. Second, some systems have more control over their switches than others. Obviously, it's not an on-command thing. You can use things like positive and negative triggers to encourage alters forward or back. It's not a guarantee. But you have shown nothing proving that divided has claimed to switch on command.
Switching isn't some fun little game. It's very intense and involuntary, especially if someone harmful decides to switch into the body. This isn't...
Those are ridiculous reasons to fake claim someone, first of all. There's no such thing as an evil alter, and I'm very, very tired of people pushing that narrative. Alters can have unhealthy coping mechanisms. There can be alters like persecutors. But pushing the idea of a harmful alter is... that just adds to the stigma. Final fusion isn't even the only treatment goal either. Not all systems want final fusion. Not all systems can achieve final fusion either. That is a ridiculous take on their part. I do not blame you.
all sunshine and rainbows like it's depicted online, having fun backstories for these alters. That's, again, not how this works at all. It's not as simple as, hey everyone, meet alter number 1, who has something to say, and then here's alter 99. They love Jaffa cakes.
You do realize that with TikTok videos and any video online, honestly, you can record something, you can stop that recording, and then you can go back to it later and add something else to it. Of course they got mad at that. They think that Final Fusion is a complete cure, which is not the case.
Isn't that so fun and quirky? Leave a like on today's video if you also like Jaffa Cakes. It's just ridiculous. And honestly, how does that even make sense? Sure, switches can happen quickly, but you typically involuntarily trigger yourself to get there. So
What? Not all switches are the result of a trigger. That is a very good point.
are there such things as positive triggers? Yes, but the real systems or people with DID use those positive triggers during stressful situations when
Whoa. That is also true. Firstly, even in our own system, we do not use positive triggers unless we have permission from that altar to use that positive trigger to encourage them forward. For us specifically, we only use positive triggers if we are having a very difficult time switching, because it makes it easier. You should never positively or negatively trigger any altar in any system without permission from that system and from that altar. That is true. We've had very smooth, very quick switches. Mostly on stream, our switches are involuntary and we try to fight them, which makes them more distressing and leads to us feeling sick.
one part can handle things better than another, and definitely not in the middle of shoots for your TikTok videos. It doesn't matter how stressful you think your job is if you have a TikTok account. I'm almost guaranteeing it's not that stressful.
People can make TikTok videos and have other things going on outside of TikTok in their everyday life that is stressful. Not all switching happens due to stressful situations. That is fair. At our last job, before I fused, one of the altars I was before, Val, was the one who usually switched in for work. Sometimes we would have other people switch in, but typically she was able to stay grounded.
And here we go again.
So some people have spaces where they go when they film. Just because we always stream at our desk in our bedroom does not mean... It doesn't mean anything. That is also fair. I know that we've had fusions in other parts of our system that we are completely unaware of, with altars that we are completely unaware of still. We've had a few fusions. More than a few fusions in the main part of the system. I don't know about our subsystems. We don't know much at all about our subsystems.
With more clips of him magically summoning his altars just to introduce them to his followers. It's amazing, right? It's like every single fake system on TikTok.
Again, you can pause recording or stop recording and go back to it later. That is a thing you can do. That is something that you can do with technology.
TikTok, DVI-DID included, follows the same script. Either they're magically calling altars for some lip-syncing fun, or they're all about those internal conversations. Then out of nowhere, it's like, oh, this altar needs to come forward and talk. In reality, altars should never have to come forward.
People with DID are allowed to do skits of them acting out something that's happened. It doesn't mean that there needs to be a switch. That is valid. I don't think we've been able to do that. It might have happened unintentionally, but we have been able to kind of communicate switches. So for example, if it were me and Corey co-fronting with myself more in control, we can communicate to have a smoother switch. That is fair. Communication can be very difficult.
Unless it's for protection. But to these people, it's just a game.
Doesn't the filters on Heal help manage symptoms?
Yes, altars are created to protect. But we are our own individuals, and we deserve to be able to do things just like any other person. We don't need to just be standing on the sidelines waiting for someone to attack us. That is fair. I don't think... Do we have any altars that can do that? I'm not sure. We co-front pretty often, so we're able to kind of go back and forth with that. To have one person more in control slightly. But I am allowed to exist and do things that I like to do. I do not need to just sit by waiting for someone to attack us. I am my own individual with my own likes and dislikes and hobbies and things that I like to do. And I am allowed to front to do those things, whether we are in a stressful situation or not. Systems are weird, and every system is so unique.
Not so much manage symptoms. Using different filters can help alters express themselves in ways that they normally couldn't, because we do all share one face and one voice most of the time. So using those filters or those voice filters or those audios can help them express themselves in ways they normally couldn't. But it doesn't necessarily help manage symptoms outside of sometimes helping aid in communication between system members. So I guess yes, in certain extents they could be considered helpful in a therapeutic sense.
And suggesting TikTok filters are therapeutic is...
That is not what they said. That is not what they said. That is not what Nicholas said. That is not what he said. That is not what he said. That is not at all what he said. He said using filters can help alters express themselves better. Exactly, and expressing yourself and being able to do that freely can in itself be therapeutic.
is on a whole different level of craziness as well. Why even bother with therapy then at that point? Yup.
So using TikTok filters to express yourself and going to therapy to help process trauma and help manage your symptoms better are two different things. A TikTok filter is not going to be able to help you process trauma as far as I am aware. Yes, exactly. That is actually why we have the little pictures under our webcam, because it makes us more comfortable looking at the stream. Mirrors are not the best. That is completely valid as well.
Doctors or even processing trauma when you can just hop on TikTok and add filters and let your 5-year-old alter act up because, hey, it's apparently so therapeutic. And the best part is, well, you're obviously gonna...
I mean this as a genuine question. Does this person know what therapeutic means? I'm not saying that as an insult or mocking. I mean it as a genuine question, because it does not seem like they know what it means. Going to therapy and doing something therapeutic are two different things. Doing something therapeutic is something relaxing, something to help manage your emotional state. Going to therapy is much deeper than that.
Gonna save thousands of dollars on therapy and medication. What a life hack. Yeah, well, that's obviously not how that works. Look, I've been reading through your comments, and a lot of you share your very real struggles with DID. Every time I upload a new video here on my channel, it's kind of hard to imagine the time, effort, and money it takes to manage this disorder, let alone in reality. Then suddenly we see these phonies come along, treating it like some kind of fun or quirky game. I can only imagine how frustrating it must be for you. Honestly,
This might be an unpopular take, but I loved that video. I loved it. That may be an unpopular opinion. That video was very entertaining, which is the purpose of that video, to be entertaining. Exactly. Also, I agree with your comment before. It does. I honestly love memes and videos like that because it shows that DID is not all just panic attacks and flashbacks. It's a dark disorder, but that does not mean that we have to be suffering 24/7. Let us have fun with humor. And actually, that is a thing in our Google Doc. We have sources for how humor helps people cope. Exactly.
honestly, can we just finally be done with this whole choose your alters trend in the community? Like, at this point, what even is this? An auction?
It is a joke and a meme and a fun way to express themselves, and honestly, when we had TikTok, I know we've said this before, when we had TikTok, making videos like that helped improve our communication in our system. I don't know if it's the same for other systems, maybe for some, maybe not for others. Maybe it is the same thing with them. Just learning more about your alters, learning more about each other, that can help improve communication. Honestly, that is...
Auction, going once, going twice, sold to the highest bidder. They're obviously just romanticizing having alters that you...
How is that... Corey, you need to step back. Apparently not. We are not allowed to be positive about ourselves. Because that means we're romanticizing it. Sorry, Corey got too close during that. There's a reason why myself and Corey have both agreed that Corey is not allowed to do these streams with these videos. Because Corey can be very reactive. Exactly.
You can easily pick and choose. And yeah, I even made a video in the past talking about these TikTokers who were selling altars online, where people were buying it on a type of...
That was something that started as a joke with people with DID, and then it ended up becoming a real thing that endogenics were taking and using for fun. No one with DID is seriously selling altars. We've made jokes with our friends about trading altars, but that is all it is a joke. People have claimed that sometimes. I've seen that as a reason for someone faking DID on FDC. Which we were friends with a system who actually split an interject of one of our altars. See, that's exactly what it is, and that is all it is jokes. We are allowed to make jokes. Like I said, pinned comment on YouTube. There's a Google document. We have sources in there for how people use humor to cope.
eBay website, which is ridiculous. The more research we put into these videos, the more baffled I am that anyone could believe this.
For one, they are using a vape off camera, and the reason that they are doing it off camera is because it is against TikTok's whatever. TikTok will get very mad. I agree with both of those comments. But also, what is the point of you putting this clip here? What does this have to do with them supposedly faking DID? What is the point?
It's not generally how it works.
You know, if you are an influencer on any platform and happen to have this disorder, I can only imagine how careful you'd need to be about your public image. It makes total sense you'd want to foster a positive environment where you can raise awareness, encourage support, and share your personal experiences.
That is the vibe that I'm getting to from a lot of these videos. Also, DID systems are allowed to exist without constantly educating people about the disorder. Some people just want to exist and post skits and memes about their system. I don't think that they've commented on their appearance yet. There's only a couple minutes left in this video, so we will see, but
without jeopardizing the community you've built. After all, people look up to you, and that comes with a lot of responsibility. One thing that really stands out is just how easy it is to identify those who are just faking the ID, as they
no. 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 You cannot tell if someone is faking DID or not based on what, well, for one, what they choose to post online. Two, from a few 15-second TikToks. Three, without having the qualifications to do so. I don't know, but that is worded perfectly. Yes, that is perfectly worded.
often turn out to be the most problematic ones. For DVI DID, well, to be honest guys, I don't see anything noble in what he's doing. Instead of providing helpful information or being a good role model for his younger audience, he often...
Again, how do you know that their audience is young? You didn't show their analytics. Do you even have their analytics? No proof was shown. You just said that they have a mostly teenage audience without showing any proof.
And engages in some pretty disturbing behavior. During his live streams, for instance, he frequently includes moments of him sniffing certain substances on camera.
No. What? Things like that have happened to us before too. Very relatable. Very, very relatable. But firstly, when we had TikTok and when we were mutuals with Divided, because it's not DVI DID or whatever he's been saying. When we were mutuals with them and we had TikTok, we were frequently on those streams. That is completely fair. We lose time all the time. We'll lose entire days sometimes, and it messes with our very loose schedule that we have for like doing laundry and things. But we watched their TikTok lives when they were vaping on camera, and it was literally just vaping. That was it. Saying that they were sniffing substances? I don't know where that came from. I really don't. For one. And for two, they are an adult. That is valid. Who knows? Who knows?
Like, why? Why the hell do you need to put that out there for everyone to see? If you have a serious addiction, then obviously get help and maybe choose to do that privately instead of involving others in...
For one, they're doing it off camera. For two, you don't even know what they're doing. Obviously, because you don't know that they're vaping which we only know because we've been in their streams before when we had TikTok, when they were vaping on camera. I mean, could be a good combination, I don't know.
Watching you, that's seriously insane. I'm not trying to be perfect or a saint here, but what he's doing is definitely not the kind of content everyone should be promoting, especially to young, impressionable followers. As mentioned earlier, imitative DID is social.
Why? Yeah, I agree. We have a vape, but I don't remember the last time we did vape. It was a while ago. But even if we were to vape on stream, for one, we have a warning on our stream that it's for 18 plus only. For two, we are an adult. That is completely fair. That is completely fair. Why would this person not put this, wherever they got this from, in the description as a source? Ooh, you're a singer? See, I like to sing, even though I know that we're not any good at it. A metal singer, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Really contagious, it seems. With all the misinformation floating around online, it's no wonder some people might actually think they have a mental illness or disability. And watching people like DID make a joke out of a very serious disorder or give advice they clearly know nothing about, well, it's extremely frustrating if you actually take this stuff seriously, which most of us do. I know some of my older videos would just kind of make light and joke around lightheartedly about this stuff, and obviously I've now taken a much serious tone into this. I'll always continue making videos like this, but I'm also going to mix up with some other content in the future.
Please make less videos like this. Please. I can't remember the last time we've actually screamed, to be completely honest. Or just a quiet person in general. Which is why we have our mic volume turned up fairly high, so that people can actually hear us. That is completely fair. I know that the people who make the videos that I react to are most likely never going to see any of the streams or VODs or even know that we exist. If they do, for whatever reason, by some chance, they are always free to reach out to us. Again, we have been professionally diagnosed twice with DID. We are open to having a civil conversation. I don't make these streams to be insulting. I just make these streams to try to lessen the stigma from the misinformation that you are spreading. We're not professionals. We have a source list. We've said many times, do not just use us as your only resource. We would be interested in having conversations with the people who make these videos and just having an honest, open discussion. So they are always free to reach out. I'm sure we have our Discord username somewhere. But if not, you are free to leave a comment with however we can contact you, if you would like. Also, that comment is fair. I've been streaming for almost 2 hours. I have a headache. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the follow, and it was very nice speaking to you. Thank you for your comments. And thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you whenever we stream next. Bye.